Hello friends, welcome to our channel Easy English to have glimpses of English language and literature. Today we will discuss the most renowned literary figure on the horizons of English language and literature, Mr. William John Shakespeare. We will study in detail his sonnet number 33 entitled Full Many a Glorious Morning Have I Seen. I am Srinivas Pawar, Assistant Professor of English from Basab Desai College, Patan, Maharashtra. First, we will go through some interesting details about Shakespeare, who was born in 1564 and died in 1616. He is, and he will ever be the most dominating literary figure, and currently is the greatest writer in English language. In the most flourishing age of Queen Elizabeth I, which spans from 1558 to 1603, Shakespeare was trying his hand in poetry, drama, and acting as well. He was the greatest even among his contemporaries like Edmund Spenser, Christopher Marlowe, Sir Philip Sidney, and others. Not to our surprise, Shakespeare is England's national poet, national pride, who is also known as the Bard of Avon or simply the Bard. To his credit, Mr. Bard has in all 39 plays, 2 long narrative poems, and 154 sonnets. Though published in 1609, Shakespeare wrote these sonnets throughout his career. He intended 2 sonnet sequences. One is about his thirst for a married woman of a dark complexion, the Dark Lady, and another sonnet sequence is about his love struggle for a fair young man, the Fair Youth. His 1609 edition of sonnets is dedicated to Mr. W.H., whose identity is as mysterious as anything. Before reading poem line by line, we will discuss some of the thematic aspects which will help us understand the poem easily. The poem seems to explain the trouble in the relationship between Shakespeare and his beloved friend, the Fair Youth. The Fair Youth has done something to hurt the poet's feelings, maybe by favoring another poet or another friend over Shakespeare. This makes the poet feel alienated or estranged. Hence, this sonnet is categorized as an estrangement sonnet, which describes the alienated lover's response to beloved friend's some unspecified sensual fault. In the sonnet, the sun is a metaphor for the poet's beloved friend, the Fair Youth. In the Renaissance period, there is a fashion of adoring the friendship amongst men in the aristocratic families. The first quatrain of the poem admires the beautiful day, that is, the first 4 lines of the poem praises the sun and how sun lights up the things. The second and third quatrains describe how the ugly clouds cover the sun's face for the latter part of the day, and the final couplet describes how poet justifies the activities of the sun or activities of his beloved friend, the Fair Youth. Let us read the poem line by line and we will try to get the meaning of it. Full many a glorious morning have I seen, flatter the mountain tops with sovereign eye, kissing with golden face the meadows green, gilding pale streams with heavenly alchemy. From these lines we can understand that the poet has seen so many mornings which are made glorious by the sun. The sun lights up the mountain tops with his complementing eyes. Here the poet compares the sun with his beloved friend, the Fair Youth. As the sun brightens the nature, so does the poet's friend, the Fair Youth, flatters or cheers up the surrounding people. For poet, the golden face of the sun is kissing the green meadows and is decorating the pale streams of the river with heavenly alchemy or heavenly magic. Here the poet wants to suggest that the company of his beloved friend is so charming, so energizing, that what sun brings to the nature, poet's friend brings the same for him. In the next four lines, we find the complaining tone of the poet. Anon permit the basest clouds to ride, with ugly rack on his celestial face, and from the forlorn world his visage hide, stealing unseen to west with his disgrace. The poet complains to the sun that it allows the lowest clouds to ride on his face, to make the sun's face an ugly frame. The poet seems to be quite angry with the behavior of his beloved friend. Thus the visage of the sun, or the face of the sun, which would give happiness to the world, is now hidden from the unhappy world. The sun is stolen by the ugly clouds, meaning that some other people have taken the poet's friend away from him. The sun is now unseen and is taken to the west with his shame, with his dishonor. It means that the friend has been taken away for so long a time and his friendship is setting down. The poet's dislike for such behavior of his beloved friend is evident from his choice of words like the basest, ugly, disgrace, etc. Reading next four lines or a quatrain, we understand that even so, my sun one early morn did shine, with all triumphant splendor on my brow. But out, alack, he was but 1 hour mine, the region cloud hath masked him from me now. Now the poet dwells in his past life. He remembers his son Hamnet, who died an early death. The poet says that, like this sun in the sky, his own son Hamnet once used to shine. In the early morning of his life, Hamnet was also shining up, lighting up the poet's life. Then poet used to smile with all triumphant, all victorious splendor on his face. But unfortunately, Hamnet belonged to Shakespeare only for an hour. That is, for a very short span of time, poet had enjoyed his son's company. This sense of disappointment or outrage towards God is expressed in these lines. Just like Hamnet, his son, the poet's beloved friend has also given him a very short span of true friendship. And now the other friends have covered the fair youth whose company our poet seeks. Hence poet says that the concealing clouds have masked the sun, have hidden the sun behind them. The use of the figure of speech pun or double meaning on the word sun is evident in the line number 9. The closing couplet or stanza of 2 rhyming lines is a bit tricky to understand. The first line of the couplet, "Yet him for this my love no whit disdaineth," means that after all this, poet's love for his beloved friend has not decreased. The poet gives a strong reason for this in the second line of the couplet as, "Sons of the world may stain when heaven's sun staineth," meaning that if the actual sun in the heaven can get stained or polluted by clouds, then it is obvious that the sons of the world or friends on the earth also can get obscured or can get morally polluted by the surrounding people. After all, he is Shakespeare. If he will not justify his friend's misdoings, who else will? Shakespeare deliberately uses the word stain to highlight its double meaning. The poet is definitely hurt by the behavior of his beloved friend or the fair youth. The poet is also angry with the people who surround the fair youth. The poet is angry with the poets or lovers who corrupted the beloved friend of our poet. Thus the poem ends on somewhat positive note where Shakespeare seems ready to forgive his friend. The plural use of the word sons in the last line also suggests that there is every possibility that the poet may also get stained. That's why he is Shakespeare. Let us observe some language skills of a first-class writer. The poem is a typical Shakespearean sonnet of 14 lines divided into 3 quatrains, that is 3 stanzas of 4 lines, rhyming alternately and followed by a stanza of 2 rhyming lines, that is a couplet. In the first quatrain or 4-line stanza, we can see the word seen rhyming with the word green. Similarly, the word I somewhat rhymes with the word alchemy. Thus we can say here that the first line rhymes with the third and second line rhymes with the fourth. So the rhyming scheme becomes A B A B. Same rhyme scheme is followed in the next 2 quatrains. The final couplet or the stanza of 2 rhyming lines stands apart. It gives a turn in thought, which is also called in literary language volta. It gives conclusion to the thoughts expressed in first 12 lines. Thus we understood here that the poem is a 14 lines sonnet having 3 quatrains and a couplet and rhyming as A B A B C D C D E F E F G G. The meter used here is iambic pentameter, which is very much close to the natural flow of English language. It contains 10 syllables divided into 5 feet in the form of a weak and strong syllable position. It can easily be identified as ta-dum, 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 ta-dum. For example, full many a glorious morning have I seen. Or in the 5th line, the next example, anon permit the bestest clouds to ride. So going through Shakespearean sonnet is a beautiful experience formatically and content-wise as well. Hope you enjoyed the beauty of language and theme handled by the world's greatest writer. To have more glimpses into language and literature, kindly subscribe to our channel Easy English. It is easy. Thank you very much for your patience listening.